We need to have efficient operating room days, and one of the things that I like about the LensX laser is that there's not a fixed bed, and it's got a really nice small footprint. So what we do is we have patients that have a bed that a chair that converts into a bed, and so they sit in the preoperative area. They roll all the way through. We do the laser. We roll them right into the operating room. But you can use it with a lot of the different beds that you already have in a surgery center. I think that that's a really important thing to make sure that your operating room days go the way you want them to go. Look right at that center ring of lights, bud.
Yeah.
Good job. Excellent. Look down just a smidge. There you go. Great. Perfect. Just like that. Suction.
Holding.
So then by pushing the center button, it will align the images, and you can adjust them to where you want them to be. If they're not exactly where you want them to be, the user interface is really easy and intuitive and nice. You have a beautiful OCT here, and what you want to pay attention to is how flat the dock is. That's pretty good. It's not perfectly flat, but it's well within acceptable. And look at how thick this cataract is, and that's one of the things that is very variable, and you can see the narrow angle, but how thick cataracts are, and I'll know that I'm going to go within 500 microns of that posterior capsule every single time, allowing me to get a good easy crack. And with these thick lenses, it really does save a lot of phaco energy. The capsulotomy goes quick, only takes 4 seconds or so. The entire procedure is usually less than 30 seconds. Here you can see the 2.23 fragmentation pattern with the horizontal planes that are created, and that makes it really easy to disassemble this cataract. The incisions that are created are really, really good, actually, and I think that that's the hallmark of a good femtosecond laser, is how well can it do the corneal incisions, because that's where the preciseness needs to come. There doesn't need to be nearly as much preciseness in the lens, but the cornea is where you really know the difference. Like we talked about in there, the incisions are really, really high quality with the LensX. You can hardly see them, but you can see how it just goes right in, and you don't have to do hardly any manipulation to get into the wound. That precision that comes from those pulses being exactly where you want them to be is what does that. The lens is much more forgiving, but the cornea is not, because those stromal fibers are so dense and so strong that they wouldn't break easily unless they were cut very, very precisely. I think that that's one of the hallmarks of the quality of a femtosecond laser. So put some viscoelastic in, go over the top of the capsulotomy so you don't move it. Almost every single time they're free floating, so you could blow a capsulotomy into the angle 180 degrees away. Now watch how easy this incision is to open up. I don't use any special instrument, just my capsulorhexis forceps. And it just slides right in, and then you move the capsule, squirt on the cornea. And you can see that it's entirely free floating and pulls out easily. The precision and reproducibility that comes along with femtosecond cataract surgery, I think, is what really gives it its advantages. By doing surgery exactly the same way every time, we're able to predict better what we're gonna be able to do, and there's data out there to show that refractive outcomes are improved. Bob Sione's done a nice job with some of that work. So this is the balance tip. One thing that I want you to point out is that it's got the little curve here in the center, and the shaft is in line with the tip. So the transition from the flared tip with a Kelman configuration to the balance tip was a really easy one, and the only thing that I can really recall from when I made that transition is that with the balance tip, you maybe hold your hand just a little higher because it doesn't have that 30-degree bend in the shaft. But the thing that I really remember the first time that I used it is how it just ate through dense lenses really quickly. And this is a relatively dense lens, and as you'll recall from the LensX, it's quite thick too. So I go down pretty posteriorly. You can see these individual little cubes here, and you can see how easily this cracks, how nicely it spins, cracks beautifully, and you really don't even have to groove sometimes to get these cracks just the way that you want them to be. And I'll show you that here again too, because I didn't even groove on that crack that was there. Clean it out a little bit so I can see where I'm at, and here you can just get a little bit of purchase and crack it. Remove these quadrants. balance tip really does a nice job, especially in combination with this Centurion, to keep the lens right on the tip, and you can see that there's hardly any movement of my phaco tip, and everything just does all the work right there, right at the iris plane. The iris is stable, the capsule is stable, even when there's hardly any lens material inside the eye, and that's a pretty nice, efficient phaco, getting that relatively dense cataract and relatively thick cataract out of the eye.
Cortex.
Cortex removal is not difficult, even after laser cataract surgery. You maybe don't have those ultra-friendly wisps of cortex that come into the center of the pupil, but if you go out into the periphery and grab the cortex and move centripetally, everything comes out really nicely. Just like any other cataract surgery, the subincisional cortex is the hardest to get, but I like using this polymer tip and the little ridge there as a capsule retractor that allows me to get under there and lift up the capsule and grab any subincisional cortex that's there. You can see that this capsule is a little loose, probably because of how thick and dense the cataract was. The polymer tip is really forgiving. You know, of course you want to be careful, but I'd be much less eager to polish that capsule with a metal tip than I am with a tip like this. And there you get all that subincisional cortex. Okay, there's one more little whisper up there in the corner. Polish that central capsule up. Beautifully centered capsular rexus. Look right at that light for me. Good job. Viscoelastic. Look right at that light.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about the Acrosoft material is how it unfolds at just the Goldilocks pace, just right. Not too fast, not too slow. I don't have to wait for it, but it doesn't spring out of the eye either. Remove the viscoelastic from behind the capsule. Remove the viscoelastic from the anterior chamber. Now I also want you to pay attention to how nicely these incisions heal. You can see that the anterior chamber stays formed. There's not a lot of fluid leaking here. When you come to do the stromal, look, keep your eye real still, look right at the light. Good job, bud. Do a little bit of stromal hydration on the sides. Hydrate the roof. You don't have to do it too aggressively. So that's not an aggressive stromal hydration. That eye's really nice and hard. I'll release a little bit of fluid, and you'll see that that wound is nice and dry.